What's going on, Jeromes? Beautiful day. Sun is shining, birds are chirping and stuff. And Q&A time. Let's dive on in. Online alias. Do you think every fan base has those fans ready to poo-poo their own team, preying on their downfall, or is it just us? I think it's every fan base. It's like a bell curve. Like, you got the normal fans in the middle, you got the casuals, you got the hardcores, you got the ones that are sort of out there. Granted, we have some heartbreakers to create jaded fans. I love you, Andy. Happy holidays, Jeromes. Same to you. Bad dad joke. Any thoughts on adding a daily playlist for videos? No. That would require effort. It seems like it'd be fun. Blah, blah, blah. Rag on you. What would be the likely scenario with the quarterback and D-line situation coming off this offseason? And what is your favorite Thanksgiving dish? Favorite Thanksgiving dish? Brisket. Traditional Thanksgiving side, mac and cheese. I think we're starting to do the lasagna as a traditional thing. I think that's becoming a thing, which is great. Likely scenario for quarterback D-line. I think that the Vikings re-sign either Cousins or Dobbs, and these last 5 games of playoffs greatly will affect what happens with Josh Dobbs. Jaren Hall is going to be here. It's on his rookie deal, and I wouldn't be shocked if the Vikings spend a day 1 or day 2 draft pick on a quarterback. D-line, they got to supplement because Phillips has been great. See if they extend him long term, as well as Jaquelin Roy. Would like to see him in the mix. Jonathan Bullard is a free agent, and Lowry was a 1-year experiment. Yeah, I think they'll hammer things either in free agency or the draft. Zekwa. What is your second favorite team after the Vikings? I've always had a soft spot for the Raiders. And I always like the Oakland mentality and respect when they were in L.A. Vegas, it's not really a home field advantage, except, of course, big fan of Vegas. Also the Mystique. Also, respect the way that Al Davis was one of the OG Rebels. And now, talking about like way back in the day, not when he was older, and then they just ended up drafting the fast guy every year, and then he fired Lane Kiffin using an overhead projector. Showdown. Would you consider taking another wide receiver in this year's draft in the first round, and if so, who? Probably not. I think unless Marvin Harrison Jr. is there at 32. Now, but I think the Vikings are set at wideout. Even if KJ leaves the free agency, they'll be fine. Knack Dog. Hello, Andy, Jerome, Ezekiel Cousins. I love the channel. Keep up the great work. Thank you. Thoughts on pursuing Leonard at linebacker? Yes, and especially since the Colts are on the hook for $6.11 million. Sign him for the league minimum to offset, and you'll be good to go. And yeah, I mean, he has had back issues, but mama, I can change him. Who will be re-signed and extended? I think the Vikings will take care of their cornerstones. I think Kirk is up in the air, even though his void-year dead cap hit is $28.5 million. But I think that they re-sign JJ. Hopefully they re-sign Daniil. I think they extend Darisaw, and they go from there. What do we do at quarterback moving forward? It will either be Cousins or Dobbs, and then Jaren Hall, and I think rookie TBD. That's where we're at right now. Andy Shong. Thoughts on Timberwolves being the top seed in the Western Conference? Woo! All right, so watching them right now, so hopefully this works out. But the Wolves play a brand of basketball that you can do very well with in the playoffs. I mean, they can play defense. Ant can obviously heat up and get a shot at any time. Could take over a game, especially late. So, I mean, the Wolves are going to be a tough out. And we said this last year, where after the Nuggets won the titles, like the Wolves gave Denver their toughest series. And I think it's going to be a fait accompli, those two in the Western Conference Finals. And yeah, Gobert is looking like a defensive player of the year type guy again, as well as Jay McDaniels may be the best perimeter defender in the league. Hopefully he heals up soon. And, I mean, Mike Conley, the old man, is doing some good things. I think this team is deep. They're a lot of fun. And I think that they have Tier 1 players at the positions that matter, and they can play defense. So that's all a beautiful recipe for going deep in the season. Cody Smith. What position should the Vikings aim for in the next draft? Pending on a free agency, I think D-line is first and foremost. Offensive line is good to go. Weapons are good to go. Running backs, except there's not any like high-end draftable running backs this year. I mean, Blake Corum maybe. But I think hammering that D-line, quarterback, cornerback. We'll go from there. Let's go from Kentucky with love. Woo, that's right. Trey Botcher. Do you think JJ is going to be insane, good, or rusty when he comes back? Insanely good. I think that by delaying it for as long as they have and making sure they're not half-assing it, making sure that he is 100%, I think that he will be vintage JJ when he comes back. Walter Hibbard, what should the first pick be in our upcoming draft? D-line. Or quarterback, who knows. Tyler Johnson, guitar. If you could pick one NFL player off any roster to put the Vikings over the edge, who would it be? I mean, these questions are always great, but it's always Mahomes. Current and all-time answers would be cool. I mean, Mahomes. Yeah, Mahomes would be one. See what else. Myles Garrett with Danielle Hunter would be pretty fun. Or do I have to say Deron Bland? Sauce Gardner, PS2. Yeah, certainly would be up there. All-time. I mean, prime Tom Brady. Like 06, 07, 08 Tom Brady. Or I guess not 06. 07, 08, 09 Tom Brady. Sure. Jermaine Williams. Which loss this season hurt the most? It was being so close. And who do you see leaving the Vikings in free agency this offseason? So schedule-wise, I mean, the Broncos one is up there because it's recent, but the Vikings gave away that game against the Chiefs. They gave away that game against the Eagles. Either of them would have been nice to have a feather in your cap. Chargers, whatever. Bucks, whatever. But, I mean, prisoner of the moment, Broncos. But I would say the Chiefs one was tough because Madison dropped that walk-in touchdown. Then the officials at the end, but the Vikings didn't play better than the refs reffed. And the Vikings, I mean, the Chiefs threw without the were, and we let them off the hook. Leaving the Vikings for agency this offseason, Cousins or Dobbs, one of the two. Yeah. R-Free. Is it safe to assume that 99 isn't going to be here long term? He is raising his value with every game. Wouldn't you try to do something before the offseason? Well, it takes two to tango, and maybe Daniil and his agent understand that they are in the catbird seat right now, and they're willing to roll the dice on getting, because in season can be kind of hectic and chaotic, and GMs are out scouting and doing prep work for free agency and the draft. But yeah, I think getting to the offseason and having the accolades and maybe the sack title certainly helps his leverage even more. R-Free, butterfly effect question: if the team would have made the trade for Trey Lance back then instead of the Cowboys, and Kirk goes down, do you think that where would the team be now? Well, I think Trey never got a real shot with the Shanahans. I think that Kevin O'Connell would have catered his scheme to Trey Lance, and you see what Josh Dobbs has been able to do with a great offensive line and great weapons. I think Lance would have found similar success in this spot. If Dobbs loses this game, it has to be Jaren Hall's turn again, right? At what record do we stick with one guy long term as opposed to drafting someone? I don't think that's a set record. I mean, obviously, if Dobbs goes on a magic carpet ride, wins the Super Bowl, you go with him. But also, absent Dobbs just having a meltdown, like 4 turnover a game where he plays extremely poorly, I mean, he has to be really bad for the Vikings to go to Jaren Hall at this point. I think that he's earned enough leeway in that regard. Kanye West's biggest fan? What are your thoughts on the Timberwolves right now if you had to watch them? Because I think they're serious contenders. Sort of echoing what we said earlier, they can play defense, then get their shots. Cat is sort of fitting in with the offense now, which is great. And Anthony Edwards is just... Yeah, I wasn't really old enough or able to pay attention when Jordan was just really ascending and finally ripped off that first championship in year 7. But it feels like Edwards is sort of on that same path, where you go from this high flyer and a scorer to a guy that can lead a team to a championship. We're starting to approach that territory. I guess McDaniels would be Pippen. Defensively, I mean, sure, maybe. Jeromes Smith. If you could build a Hall of Fame Viking team, who would be on it? And for defense, you pick the year. Who would be on it? Tarkenton, Adrian, Randy Moss, Chris Carter, Anthony Carter, Steve Jordan, Zimmerman, Yeri, Tinglehoff, McDaniel, Hutchinson, and then defense, 75 Vikings defense. There you go. Wyatt, Allison, do you think Ty Chandler should start over Alexander Madison? If so, why haven't they yet? I think part of it's loyalty to Madison. I think Madison is a solid all-around back, and maybe they don't trust Madison in pass protection, even though I don't see why they wouldn't. But it's a fair question. And I don't think that Chandler would just start over Madison, but could he see more of the work? Like a 65-35 type timeshare in the backfield? Yes, would like to see that. Eric Johnson, I'm curious, so what is the origin story of the Jeromes Minnesota show? So we repeat this like every other Q&A session. So Phil Ivey's a poker player, and when he was underage, he would have a fake ID that said Jerome. I think it's Jerome Williams or something. And on an old poker podcast, they would call him Philip Jerome Horatio Ezekiel Ivey. All right, so Jerome Ivey. So we just sort of picked up on that. So anyone we liked, we just called them Jerome, like Kirkwood Jerome Ezekiel Cousins. And then it's just sort of stuck. And that's really the entire story. Dakota Storms. If you had to choose, which Packers player is your favorite? Bakhtiari, because he stole money from the Packers and made them worse. No, I would say Elton Jenkins. Elton Jenkins up there. Devondre Campbell, except that's sort of cheating. Current Packer, all-time Packer, probably Sterling Sharp, certainly up there. Yeah. Next up is user. Is Kevin O'Connell long-term head coach? Yes. He's had his faults and his warts, and we pointed them out, but hopefully he learns from them. And as long as he's willing to learn from his mistakes and also be more aggressive in his game management, I mean, he's perfectly fine. Kyle Enstrom. I think the Vikings should invest in some D-line this offseason. Yeesh. Devondre Sweat one time. I mean, could we just have that entire Texas defensive line? Just bring them in. I mean, we'll swap out one Byron Murphy for another Byron Murphy. One time, man. Also, the Illinois nose tackle. Let's go, man. Or Chris Jenkins, kid on Michigan. Come on, man. I'm Milo. Top draft needs for the Vikings right now, if the draft is this week: quarterback, D-line, maybe linebacker, depending on how you see Asama long term. Drew Smith. I'm a Utah State fan and a Vikings fan, so I'm in the hellish position of having to hope Jordan Love plays well, but the Packers suck. Do you think the Vikings have solidified the defense enough to where they go heavy on offense this offseason? I think the Vikings are actually better off on offense than they are on defense. I think personnel-wise, they could certainly upgrade, especially that D-line. And also sort of in between a rock and a hard place. How about Jordan Love plays so poorly down the stretch that the Packers move on? Jordan Love finds a new team, maybe the Falcons, and then he can blossom. It's fine. Supercore. Was the most important game remaining on the schedule Detroit at home? I would actually say Detroit on the road. Yeah, so the Vikings should hold serve at home against the Lions and the Packers. Two road games in the NFL, but Raiders and Bengals, the Vikings should win both those games. It may come down to Week 18. Although, in terms of order, I guess at home against the Lions, because having that game in your pocket into Week 18 is also huge. But, I mean, taking care of your business on the road in division, whenever you can do that, it's fantastic. The Vikings have already done that. They're 2-0 on the road against the Bears and the Packers. Oh, my. Next is Mr. Lips. Will you shave your eyebrows if Dobbs wins us a championship? Yes, sure. Chris Gossman. How long will it take for Vikings coaches to see Josh Dobbs not the answer as starting quarterback in the NFL? He's a good backup who can win games, but when will Hall take over as the starting quarterback? Well, I think it's too reductive to say that he's not the answer. I mean, could he be the answer? Sure. Is he not? It's also a possibility. But I think that Dobbs actually spoiled us with how he played at the end of the Cardinals game and the beginning of the Saints game, because he played the Broncos game like a backup quarterback who's only been with the teams for 3 weeks AAA, right? But hopefully he can get off the mat, and you've seen that he can be high end. He can make some good throws, but I don't know. We'll see. Like I'm not sold that he is going to be the guy in 2024, but could he be the guy for the rest of the year? Potentially, even though I still have a strong belief in Jaron Hall. Axel Peterson. Do you think Justin Jefferson will be better than he was when he comes back? I think that he will be vintage JJ. I think that he and the Vikings won't half-ass it. They won't bring him back before he's ready. And I actually think it's smart, even if it's a little frustrating for the fans. Hayden Wayne. Do we play Lions in first playoff game? As of right now, the Vikings would play at San Francisco, I believe, because the Vikings are 6, San Francisco is 2, or the Lions 2. No, San Francisco's 3, so it would be 3-6 matchup. The Seahawks will be at Detroit as the 2, and then the Cowboys would be at the Saints. Off the top of my head. Anna, so are the Packers getting better, or the Lions just that fraudulent, or both marginally true? I think the Packers are slightly better, but the Lions have just gotten exposed, where the Bears should have beat them at home. The Packers did beat them at home, and they're a fraudulent team with a bad defense, and Jared Goff has 6 turnovers in the last 2 games. Other than that, what more do you need? Fudo. A long stretch of a question, but let's say the Vikings go into the playoffs as a wild card and then catches lightning in a ball and they go all the way to win the Super Bowl. What would be your dream scenario of the teams we beat to get there? And what team are we beating in the Super Bowl? Delusional speaking, yes, I know. Beat the Lions at Detroit. Beat the Eagles at Philly, and then beat the Niners at well, I was gonna say Candlestick, but nah. And then I guess beat the Chiefs' ass. Full on revenge tour. Go ahead. Kyle Langstrom, would you rather pay Kirk $40 million or Dobbs for $25 million? All right, so Kirk is going to be 36. Dobbs is going to be 29. $40 million a year is actually a kind of a discount for Kirk. It really is if you compare it to some of the other contracts. I would go. Depends how many years, but say it's a 2-year deal. I'll go with Kirk. Isaac Moning. Do you think O'Connell will win a Super Bowl for the Vikings? Yes. I think eventually he will. Carter Gottsinger. JJ 1K still? I think he's got 571 yards. So, yes. Even if he just plays the final 5 games, I think he'll make it. Shane Probasco. Shaq Leonard, should we pursue him? Yes. Quintenberg, why is Ty Chandler not the starter? It's a fair question. Sean Johnson, do you think it's hypocritical for Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers to complain about the league getting too soft when they're both big reasons why quarterbacks are treated like fine china? Yes. Brady took some shots back in the day, but Rodgers, they literally changed what defenders can and can't do because of the Anthony Barr clean hit. You have to levitate. You have to Dua Lipa levitate over them. No. But yeah, I think that's fair. Josh 86. Now that we have seen our offense and with a running style quarterback, do we want Kirk back? Maybe shoot our shot for a mobile quarterback in the draft. Well, the nice thing about most of the quarterbacks in the draft is that they can move a little bit, and I think that's in sync with how the modern game is. And yeah, I think the Vikings. I think Kevin O'Connell got a taste, and also remember Kevin O'Connell was a mobile quarterback coming out of San Diego State. Kevin O'Connell was a career backup with a strong arm and good mobility. He basically was Josh Dobbs, mid-round pick. O'Connell was a 3rd rounder. Dobbs was a 4th. So I actually think that Kevin O'Connell had this repressed playbook that was just for him. In his dreams, this is the perfect offense that he would run. He's doing it with Dobbs, which is fantastic, man. I love it. But that's it. Take a look at Q&A. You guys are the best. Skol, production value.